In Victoria alone, we send 1.52 million tonnes of organic waste to landfill each year. That equates to roughly $1.21 billion in lost revenue. I am one of the co-founders of Fungi Solutions, where we turn waste into revenue using mushrooms. We are a social enterprise providing revenue streams for communities by taking in their organic waste and transforming it into sustainable products and packaging. We produce beautiful, natural, custom alternatives to single-use plastics. This is accomplished by the natural properties of the mycelium of our fungi cultures. We work primarily with Australian species and local Australian substrates. The mycelium feeds on the organic wastes and bonds them together by growing into this web-like structure that can be moulded to form. These materials are ideal for applications where you might have previously used polystyrene or heat-moulded synthetics. Micromaterials are lightweight, insulating, fully home compostable, sequester carbon, and can be grown to form in just 7 days. At the end of their life, they can then be reintroduced back into the agricultural processing in order to nourish the soil, improve aeration, water retention, and introduce healthy nutrients to the microbiome there, generating a fully circular and ongoing positive impact through their use. We're passionate about growing a circular economy industry in Darebin from the ground up. By partnering with local businesses, we assess new waste streams which have allowed us to recover organic agricultural offcuts, food and beverage excesses, sawdust, textiles, grain husks, nut and seed hulls, cardboard and paper to divert into new products. Our microcycling facilities can be established wherever there is waste, and our mission is to create a circular economy of opportunities Australia-wide. They require very little inputs in terms of electricity and water, and it's a largely hands-off process where the mushrooms do the cultivating. They're grown to form in just 7 days, and then they're simply dehydrated to render them into an inert material. To date, our microcycling programs have allowed us to divert 888 kilograms of resources from landfill, 2,250 kilograms of CO2 equivalent sequestered through our programs, and we've collected 138,760 discarded cigarette filters for our research into new recycling streams. We are looking to connect with businesses and communities to join us to transform waste into growth. So I would love to speak to anyone here that might have a waste source in their organisation or know of someone that has some on their hands. We'd love to support in recovering those resources from landfill and developing better alternatives for our future.
So do you have a facility now, and are you looking for to set up other mobile ones? Is that how you're thinking? I didn't quite understand that.
Yeah, we have a pilot facility in Thornbury at the moment. It's a 500 square metre site where we're just taking in local waste from Darebin and running pilot programs. We're pretty much scaling that to max capacity this year and are preparing to establish a commercial size facility of our own, and this will provide a blueprint for facilities of different sizes. We think this makes sense because we want to avoid waste being shipped around and would like to have the remediation and the recycling of those resources done on site, but also establish this model that supports community health and growth.
Yes, a question from Haruni, one of our local businesses. Are you looking for more waste? And if so, can businesses drop this off? Also, is there anything from food waste that you are unable to take?
Great question.
That is a great question. Yes, we are accepting new forms of waste and businesses can drop it off to us. You're welcome to get in touch through our website. We've got an email contact there where we can arrange a time to accept the waste. There is some organics like food waste when they're hydrated. We need to be able to process them quickly before they spoil, so we like to get those ones fresh. in the case of the organic food waste that we accept from the Enrich 360 project, that food waste is dehydrated so we can store it on site and then use it as needed.
Thanks, Amanda. And I think you might have said this to me, or someone else in the circular economy also said businesses that want to drop off waste also need to think of being a customer. So everyone's pretty happy to find somewhere to get rid of their waste, but the circular economy only works, and recycling actually only works if we also buy back the product with recycled content. Stephen from Integrated Recycling said to me once, unless we're buying back product with recycled content, we're stockpiling. We're not recycling, and we're certainly not part of the circular economy. So, Hirini, I'm sure you have lots of great organic waste, but it would be great if people, when they're thinking about how they can contribute, also think about how they can contribute at the other end and become a customer. In the room, yes.
Okay, I had a couple of questions that came to mind. Are you looking at fungi that can digest polystyrene? Is that even possible? Same with garden waste. Is there stuff that you're already looking at? And the other question that came to mind when you mentioned commercial scale, is there energy production opportunities? I don't know if that's a thing either, but is that something that you're potentially looking at down the track?
Great suite of questions. We have actually been collecting all the polystyrene that comes into our facility to date. We haven't identified yet a fungal strain that is successfully adapted to break down that material, but we'll be conducting research and development long term to not only produce a clean alternative to that material, but break down the excess that we currently have. It's quite a challenging and difficult pollutant, particularly because it breaks up and blows away and contaminates environments. So there's a really big push to phase that material out in particular and have better materials in place. So we'll be continuing that research as we go along. And there's such a broad scope of fungi species and digestive enzymes that they work with, and different materials and ways that they can be collaborated with, which is how we view the relationship we have with fungi. So we're looking forward to exploring that in future. Sorry, what was your second question?
About garden waste.
Yes, garden waste. Yeah, so we tend to try and keep our waste sources to organic materials where possible. This just allows us to ensure that the end result is fully compostable. If it's going into people's home gardens, we want to make sure that's as healthy as possible. So we try to encourage our partners to either have organic processes in place or convert their properties and their businesses to organic models. And maybe that's a gradual step-by-step process to start, talking about natural land management and regenerative practice. So we're quite happy to join people at wherever they're at with that journey. So we do accept non-organic materials, but they're primarily used for prototyping and development rather than commercial products. And you had one last question as well.
Yeah, it was just about energy production at commercial facilities size.
Yeah. So you've got a beautiful amount of heat and energy being generated from the biomass of these organisms digesting material, and also the added sort of benefit of doing carbon sequestration through this process. So it'd be something that we're certainly keen to explore. It'd just be working out the logistics of how to make that work and fit in with production and our facilities.
The packaging that you're producing currently, is that restricted to being like a porous only packaging versus something that is sealed and could be potentially used in food packaging, and or is there ambition to create that as well?
That's a great question. Yes, there is a lot of interest from food and beverage safe products in this material. We're currently doing research and testing against a couple of codes for this one, and developing some particular surface treatments for the material that'll sort of expand the application and scope. Primarily, you're working with that porous quality of the material. It's going to allow it to be fully compostable at the end of use, but that's certainly an area we've got our eye on.
What's the life cycle of the wine bottle packaging?
Yeah, so the materials themselves, when kept dry and in a stable environment, last many years. They're pretty much indefinite and stable when kept in that environment. Then once you introduce them to compost-like conditions, they're going to break down in 12 weeks. So that's the two lifespan considerations for the materials. You have some options for increasing longevity or decreasing longevity, depending on how you cultivate it as well. So it's a bit of scope there.
Thank you. The next question, are we able to visit your Thornbury location to see how you're doing this?
Yes, certainly. We like to have people along. You're welcome to arrange a time to come in with us. It's a good opportunity to get hands-on with the materials and feel what they're like. They're quite different to polystyrene. They're very soft, almost like a little bit velvety, and you can tell it's an organic, natural material. So it's quite nice to be able to get hands-on and see the sort of space and the processes that we're working with. As it's an entirely new industry, it's really low-tech. We're a real grassroots sort of organisation, so our facility is a bit rough, but we like that has reflected our journey and how we've established.
Thank you. The next question, there's so much waste that can be recovered in collaboration with other organisations, but what scale can you take in waste? And you may not be able to answer the second part of this question, are other councils open to such projects? So we'll start with the first question, what scale can you take in waste?
Our current facility is equipped to handle a couple of tonnes of waste a month. We're not quite at full max capacity for processing yet, and we're looking at automating some of these processes to increase the volume of waste that can be accepted. Commercial facilities are looking more at, a couple of 100 tonnes of waste. So it's really about scaling that process for the volume of the site. So that could be a very small hands-on operation, or something that's more mechanised.
Where can people buy these packaging products?
So we're currently supplying business to business. We have plans to expand to direct to consumer, but for now we're doing local partnerships with organisations that have a waste source and are also looking to have a product developed. So they'll come to us for custom prototyping and we'll collaborate with them closely to create circular loops. So that's where the focus of our current facility is. In the coming years, they'll be more commercially available. So I guess keep your eyes out and we'll be scaling up very soon.